Jordan fucking Peterson. You guys love him, we love watching him, we're gonna react to them. Before we do it, it would be awesome for me if you could click subscribe and like this video below, but let's dive right into it.
Well, I'm sure that you've met women in your life that acted towards you in a bullying and detestable manner. It's very difficult for women to cope with that because they don't have any real recourse. And female bullying can be unbelievably vicious, and usually that takes the shape of reputation destruction, innuendo, and gossip. It's well documented. It's very difficult to defend. No, men do it too, but men no. But
sorry,
the patterns,
disproportionately women, in your view, or not? Sorry.
Yes, disproportionately women. That's what the data indicate. I mean, if men
Where
are...
is the data on innuendo and gossip?
Well, it's among antisocial behavior among adolescents. It's a well-documented field. So, because people look at aggressive and antisocial behavior in women and in men. And in women, it tends to take the expression of innuendo, gossip, and reputation destruction. And in men, it tends to take the form of outright physical aggression. There's a whole literature on that. It's not a surprise to anyone. This has been known for 30 years. I mean, the rates of antisocial...
I think the idea of the female gossip probably predates 30 years.
Well, it does.
By a long time, but that doesn't... doesn't make it gospel,
but
really,
people
does it?
No, it doesn't. But people have looked at how women express... Look, women have to express aggression somehow unless you're willing to say that they're not aggressive. They tend not to do it physically, not to the degree men do, so they use other channels. And what other channels are there other than physical aggression if you're going to be aggressive? Well, you go after people verbally. You go after them with innuendo and gossip and reputation destruction. And that's how it works.
And just to be clear, that you think that's predominantly a female modus operandi?
It isn't that I think that.
Well,
it's that the clinical literature indicates that.
We are both privileged white males. Can we really understand the suffering of women?
Oh no.
Well, it depends on how useful your capacity for understanding the suffering of others is, or how well developed that is. I don't see that it's necessarily any more difficult to understand the suffering of women. Well, I would never pose the question that way because I don't know how you understand the suffering of a group being an individual. I don't think a woman can understand the suffering of women because that's predicated on the assumption that an individual can take on the burden of a group, and I don't buy that assumption to begin with. I think we vary in the ability to, let's say, empathize with others, but I don't think there's any evidence whatsoever that you can't empathize across a gender barrier. Otherwise, no relationship would even be possible.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. The idea that empathy is something that can extend to others. And it's probably like, my sense is like empathy is like a human thing. You know, you can relate to other people. Like they can be a different gender, they could be from a different country, they could be different ethnicity, they could be from a different culture, they could be a different personality. They could be very different in the very meaningful ways that we understand that people can be different. And even then, we can still empathize with them. Even our like worst enemies, we can have some empathy for them. Or, you know, people we look like horrible people, we can still have like a shred of, I don't know, hope for their humanity, some little sliver in there. So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
This is the question, the heart of the matter. So, on the one hand, you say, look, you don't have a clue what you're doing, stay out of it, right? But we live in democratic systems where it's our responsibility not to stay out of it. So how do you manage that? Because you seem to be saying...
With humility.
Humility, right. But humility doesn't preclude activism.
Generally it does, yes. But,
Why?
but
Why
that
does it
doesn't mean that I'm saying that there is no situations under which political action or activism is justified, because there are clearly situations under which it's justified. But it's not the first thing that you should be taught how to do when you're an 18-year-old person going to university and you don't know a damn thing.
So I don't doubt that there's callow youth. I don't doubt that people have a lot to learn. And
they're not learning it from their professors either.
That may be true. That may be true. But you're clearly, I mean, a big part of your narrative comes from that energy of resisting that kind of, you know...
Circumventing it.
Circumventing, but you're also saying, you know, these people who complain about the world, they should just focus on their own, what they can control themselves and work within that space.
To begin with.
To begin with, but equally, there is a slight derision in the tone about people who actually care about bigger than self issues.
It's not slight.
Okay, it's bigger. So, bigger than self problems, which arguably...
They don't care about them. They just act like, they're just acting out the delusion that they care about them, generally.
You seem to be caught
I
up
watch
in...
activists, the activists at the universities.
Right.
I know what they're like.
And we've seen the videos and we know that kind of confrontation.
Yes.
And I don't
We've seen
doubt,
Wilfrid Laurier, for example.
I've seen many, but I don't doubt that there are those who who are like that. But there are many millions more, and I mentioned Gandhi, but
Yeah.
you know, arguably...
You can't use him as an example.
Okay, well, Buddha, for example.
Or
Buddha,
him.
Buddha left his wife and child.
Yeah, but you can't use them as examples.
Okay,
First of all,
then-
like Buddha's like Christ. It's like, well, there's Christ. It's, yeah. What do you mean?
No,
There's Christ
no,
in university activists?
No, but
It's
there's...
Like, no.
Well, there's... so Martin Luther King, can I use him?
Yeah.
Right? So Martin Luther King had an affair. It was quite well known. You know, his personal life was a bit complex.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't say that, you know, he had to sort that out before he went to sort of try and deal with civil rights in the US. So I'm trying to get at the core of the tension.
No, I would say that his own personal faults didn't preclude his social responsibility. Right. And it really is important to get that straight. But I would say that his own personal faults served as a detriment to his overall mission.
Right.
And then I'm not, believe me, I am not saying that if I was in Martin Luther King's position, I would have done a better job. It's like, I am not saying that, man. Not.
So the mistakes that we make, the problems that we have, do have an effect on our ability to change the world positively around us. See, what I'm saying here is like this inside out thing. It's like, you know, clean your room, right? Clean your room before you go out and try to change the world. There's this idea that you should do the inner work before you go and try to change things in the outer space. And even if you're someone who's in the outer space, because we aren't perfect people, we still need to be doing the inner work. And even people who have had a massive positive impact in the world, they do make mistakes, and they've had problems, and those problems do have an effect on their outer work. But like, the idea is just about that process, as I understand it, is that it should start with the inside and then with the outside. And that way you avoid just making the world worse in the process.
As a clinical psychologist, I've often treated people with anxiety, and people wonder, practically, individually, clinically, why are people anxious? And I think, that's a completely ridiculous question. The reasons for anxiety are starkly self-evident. What I wonder is, why aren't people terrified out of their skulls so badly every second of their life that they can't even move? Yeah, and you all laugh because you understand that. It's like anxiety, that's no mystery. It's like brief spells of calm, that's a mystery.
See, this is maybe one of the points where I'd critique Jordan Peterson personally. I feel like his emphasis on the negative aspect of life is very overemphasized maybe. This dude has spent decades studying the genocides of the 20th century. He himself has dealt with depression that was horrible, severe depression. He himself dealt with tragedy in his own life. He's dealt with all sorts of anxiety problems, and that developed into a benzodiazepine dependence, which then put him into a coma for an extended amount of time in order to get over the side effects, akathisia. Look it up, it's crazy. So I understand why he would have that kind of, that worldview, that pessimistic worldview that, you know, just like brief moments of calm outside of all of this anxiety. That's his character, that's what he's come from, right? Thinking that life is going to treat you well actually tends to lead to a better life. He tends to downplay those kind of lofty elements like enjoyment, happiness, peace, and will emphasize things like anxiety, struggle. But at the same time, through it, he sees the meaning that comes out of taking responsibility for those struggles. So it's it's bittersweet, his message. Keep that in mind. Let's keep going.
3. Okay, and a client will come to me and say, well, I'm procrastinating. Why do I procrastinate? It's like, no, that's a stupid question. It's easy just to sit there and do nothing. What's the mystery is why you ever get up and do anything difficult at all. Procrastination is the default. And psychologists ask, doctors ask, well, why do people take cocaine? It's like, no, it's it's the wrong question. The right question is, why not, like an addicted rat, don't you just take cocaine all the time until you die? That's the question. And this question about meaning is like that too. Is there meaning in life? That's a stupid question. And I'm serious about that. That's not a question you ever ask yourself if you're in pain, right? Because when you're in pain, you know that life has a meaning. It's the pain. And you can't argue yourself out of that meaning. And so When we're asking whether or not life has meaning, that isn't what we mean. What we mean is, in the face of life's pain and suffering, does life have any positive meaning? And that is not the same question.
I'm confused about how this dovetails with your thesis that the left is too preoccupied with being non-confrontational. Right?
The left is too preoccupied
well, just that
with
we
being,
are.
that is
That's
definitely
interesting.
not
Okay,
right.
no, all right.
No, that's
I'm
a good
paraphrasing,
question.
But the idea that liberals, especially intellectuals, are preoccupied with politically correct speech, that they're not.
I see. What
And yet.
No, they're too preoccupied with identity politics by a large margin. And they tend to categorize everyone by their ethnicity and their sex and their gender. And I think all that does is turn people into tribal actors, and that the end result of that is catastrophe.
But weren't you?
There are a lot of videos on the internet of you destroying or obliterating people, and they get a lot of views. So if you could destroy me in this interview, we'd really appreciate it.
You like that?
Yeah, not a lot of people watch our show.
I can't guarantee it, but we'll see what happps.
Do you ever watch those videos when you're feeling down about yourself? Do you just watch those videos and go, yes, I destroyed that person. I rolled.
No.
Come on.
See, what's funny is like people see the media representing Jordan Peterson and they think that's him. Like him right there, he's like, you don't watch the videos that people put out about you and you don't enjoy it? And he's laughing because of how ridiculous it is to him. But you guys watching this right now are probably in that same cycle. So what I really want to do and encourage you with these reaction videos is go look at the original material. Look at Jordan Peterson videos. See if there's anything interesting in there that stands out to you. That's what I did. It's been years since I've been consuming his content and it really changed my life. So check it out and look at this.
No, that doesn't happen.
I think more how we raise them, how we live, education, sort of culture, attitudes form a human being, whether or not they are a girl or a boy when they grow up. And if I raise my daughter to become a leader, to be self-confident, to have a high education, for instance, I think she will have a good platform to become a civil engineer, to become a CEO of a company, or to become a nurse.
See, what's interesting here is this is kind of, okay, on one camp there's, hey, women should be free to choose what career they want, to be leaders, to do things that in the past has been discouraged. That's awesome. That's great. Like, no one would disagree. Even Jordan Peterson has said, like, it makes sense the empowerment of women to participate in the economy, to participate in society in ways they haven't before, just increases, competition for those roles. And it puts like more competent people in jobs that they're competent at. Like that makes sense. The first part about being able to raise people or the influences that determine people are social, that's a separate discussion. And I think that's what we're gonna see right here, Jordan Peterson talk about. I haven't seen this yet. We're gonna see, that's my prediction. You ready?
Well, that is what people who think that the differences between people who are primarily culturally constructed believe, but it's not what the evidence suggests.
Right.
We don't agree on that.
All right, thanks everyone. See you in the next video. This is Jordan Peterson Reactions. I'm gonna come back with more. Cheers.